Rome, one of the most fascinating chapters in history. When we imagine the Roman Empire, we think of the marble columns over its capital, the Colosseum, and legions marching along the roads of Europe. But its reach went far beyond that. Its dominion extended across 3 continents, and among its most impressive expansions was North Africa, one of the empire's pillars of power and wealth. After the fall of Carthage in 146 BC, Rome extended its rule across North Africa. This newly conquered territory became known as Africa Proconsularis, and included parts of what are now Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Libya. This conquest was not only military, it was a large-scale economic and cultural operation. The fertile soil, especially in areas near the Mediterranean, turned this region into the empire's breadbasket. From here came massive amounts of wheat and olive oil that fed Rome and its provinces. Roman ambitions on the African continent were clear: to fully integrate the region into the imperial model, not only by exploiting its wealth, but by Romanizing its populations. That meant bringing roads, aqueducts, temples, forums, and amphitheaters. Classic Roman architecture developed on the desert sun, and cities became true Jews of stone and marble. On the far western edge of Rome's domain, in what is now Morocco, lies Volubilis, one of the empire's most distant cities. Founded over a Phoenician-Carthaginian settlement, it became a symbol of Roman expansion in the region. Volubilis prospered through agriculture, especially olive oil, and it was a city of wealthy senators and merchants. It also supplied wild animals for gladiator spectacles, such as lions, leopards, ostriches, and buffalo. The Arch of Caracalla, built in the 3rd century, still stands out among the ruins, reminding us of the prestige the city once had. It's estimated that 15,000 people lived here. When Rome withdrew around the 3rd century, Volubilis remained inhabited for another 700 years, and was later abandoned and used as stone source for building another city. In the end, what remained was almost completely destroyed by an earthquake in 1755. After its rediscovery, some ruins were reconstructed, and the site was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Moving into Algeria, on the Mediterranean coast, the small city of Tipaza felt like a seaside retreat between the sea and the mountains. Originally a Punic trading post, it became an important Roman military colony and a hub for receiving and sending troops and supplies through its port. Its development was mainly commercial. A small theater and an amphitheater with an arena entertained its nearly 5,000 residents. And a wall measuring 2,300 meters, or about 1.43 miles, protect the city against attacks by nomadic tribes, or at least tried to, since it was invaded by the Vandals shortly before the fall of the empire. Later, it was rebuilt by the Byzantines, but it was destroyed by the Arabs and then abandoned. A modern city with the same name rose nearby, highlighting the contrast between eras. Heading east, you'll find the city with the largest concentration of Roman ruins in North Africa, Djemila, which means the beautiful. Built over an ancient Berber settlement in the mountains, it was meant to serve as a military garrison, later transforming into a major commercial market, where agricultural resources fueled the city's prosperity. Its nearly 10,000 inhabitants had everything they needed, making it one of the most prosperous cities in the region. With the end of the Roman Empire and the Arabs' new control of the area, it was gradually abandoned. Today, it contains some of the best preserved ruins among the ancient Roman cities in Africa, and it also has a museum displaying various objects from the imperial era. Farther south, Timgad is perhaps the most perfect example of Roman urban planning in Africa. Founded as a colony by Emperor Trajan in the 1st century, it was built from scratch to expand Rome's reach, influence, and business in that region, and to serve as a defensive post against Berber tribes. It was originally populated largely by Roman veterans and settlers who, even though most had never seen Rome before, lived with a daily glimpse of the empire. Designed on an almost perfectly geometric grid, it was an ideal city, with streets crossing at right angles, forums, libraries, and temples. Archaeologists often call it the Pompeii of Africa, such was its scale. At its peak, Timgad was vibrant, full of life and culture, and it grew beyond what was expected, forming small neighborhoods outside the original plan. With Rome's collapse, it was looted by Vandals, destroyed by Berbers, retaken and rebuilt by the Byzantines, and then definitely destroyed by the Arabs. Over time, desert sands swallowed part of what remained. Centuries later, it was rediscovered and systematically excavated. As we move into Tunisia, we find Dougga, one of the most impressive Roman sites on the continent. Built over an ancient city, it was initially granted the status of an indigenous city. Over time, Roman settlers began building another city beside it, and as both grew, the two settlements eventually merged into a single large city that, at its peak, had 10,000 inhabitants. Roman builders had to account for both the site's particularly rugged terrain and the older structures already there, which led them to abandon the standard layout, typical of Roman settlements. Farther south, in an arid region, stands Sbeitla. The city stood out for its excellent urban organization and for a set of public buildings that still impress today. Paved streets, monumental gates, and public baths reveal a prosperous and well-structured community. Its economy was supported especially by trade and by the production of olive oil and olives. With the empire's decline, it was conquered by the Vandals and finally the Arabs. Hidden east, Djemila is a Roman city that never stopped being inhabited. Over time, new buildings were layered on top, and almost everything from the Roman era was swallowed up, except for the gigantic structure in the middle of the city, the amphitheater. Inspired by the Rome's Colosseum, but built entirely of local stone, it could hold up to 30,000 spectators, an impressive number for Roman Africa. The Djemila Amphitheater is one of the largest and best preserved in the world. It hosted gladiators, spectacles, and imperial celebrations. Over time, part of its structure was used as a fortress during invasions, but much of it survived. Today, it's a symbol of Roman grandeur on the African continent. Finally, we arrive at Leptis Magna, perhaps the greatest and most magnificent of all Roman cities in Africa. Located on the coast of Libya and built over a Phoenician settlement, it was the birthplace of Emperor Septimius Severus, who transformed it into a monumental metropolis. Leptis Magna was an architectural spectacle. Avenues lined with columns, marble temples, baths, markets, a harbor with stone canals, an inner theater, and a huge outer amphitheater with a spectacular view of the ocean. It was a city of luxury, where imperial power was reflected in every stone. Its decline began with a devastating tsunami in the year 365. It was taken by the Vandals, recaptured by the Byzantines, and eventually taken by the Arabs. Leptis Magna was abandoned and gradually buried by desert sand. From an empire that believed it would last forever, only traces remain. These cities form a mosaic of Rome's presence in Africa, each with its own story and its own fate, yet all reflecting the same ideal, a civilization that believed it could shape the world in its own image. Today, visitors walking among broken columns and colorful mosaics are reminded that glory is temporary, but art and human ingenuity can endure for millennia. And today, North Africa remains like a vast open-air museum, where the last echoes of ancient Rome linger in the silence of the desert.